Good morning. I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. James Rodriguez, the founder and the backbone of our organization, the Fathers and Families Coalition of America. And I wonder, James, I know that you are a social worker, you are a father, you, as I said, work tirelessly for this organization. I wonder what made you become involved in the fatherhood movement?
That's a good question. I'm a product of being a single parent household. And in 1990, my children and I were out. When we came home, all the belongings were gone, and my wife at the time had left. And I had a 2 and a 1-year-old, and she was gone for about 3-4 years. But I never started it because I felt like I was a victim of fatherless condition, or I became a single father. I started working with kids that were in gangs, and they didn't have fathers. And my first job was with Head Start. That program allowed me to, my first job outside of the military, I might take a step back, I was active duty in the military, and when I had left the military, I was faced with a choice, go to Misawa Air Base in Japan or give up custody of my children. So I decided that it was not something I wanted to do, staying in the military. My children were far more important, obviously. I wrote a grant that had gotten funded. It was a TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families grant, Young Fathers program. We had 95 caseworkers statewide, 2 males, and we were ineffective working with fathers on their emotional needs and their needs as a father. We were great at getting them jobs, great at telling them go get a GED, great at telling them, but we were not great at helping them. And I realized we needed to do something. And I mean all of the partner agencies that were a part of these grants. So we formulated what was then Arizona Fathers and Families Coalition, and now has gone to a national movement over the last 7-8 years to become Fathers and Families Coalition of America.
Now, I've seen you with your lovely little daughter, and I've seen you as a man and as a father. And I wonder, what do you think the most important things that a father brings to the raising of a child? What are some of those things that you think are key?
I don't believe in leaving a legacy. I believe in living the legacy. And simple things. I've got a son, James Antonio Ernesto. I told him his name. I didn't want him to be named James. I wanted him to be named after my grandfathers. And I shared what my grandfathers imparted in me. Even though they had passed away, their legacy still was living. And my daughter Amber, my other daughter, my youngest daughter Jasmine, who you referenced, they know every simple little thing from daddy walks on the outside of the street and young ladies walk on the inside, or daddy's gonna open the door and escort you into the car. Simple little things that know that they are special young ladies who will be women. And my daughter now, one of them is 21, the other one's 7. So I think if we day to day show our children love and respect, I don't know what my children will remember me for, but I know one thing. My son, when he went on his trip to Ireland for his honeymoon in December, he left me a voice message. He said, "Dad, I remember when I was in kindergarten, I stole a wallet, and you allowed the principal to conduct a punishment. But when the principal decided to go a few extra days, you turned around the car and told that principal that by no means can he ever instill punishment beyond what you had negotiated. I feel like you've always had my back, Dad, no matter what." And he said, "I just love you, and I'm so proud of you, Dad, for always being there for me." And I think that's the one thing that I will never forget. That voicemail is just, he feels like no matter what, I'm always there, and I always have his back, even though he's remembering 18 years prior a punishment, and he's basing his foundation off of punishment that became something that is part of his foundation.
Well, what really you're saying is that what you bring to the table is love and respect for you, and teaching your child love and respect. And I think so many times men think it's money, or if I don't have money, I can't make a contribution. And have you run into that attitude in the many men you've worked with, and how how have you helped men to understand their importance in the role of their children so far beyond money?
Well, I think it's not just men with the issue of money, it's also mothers. There are a lot of mothers and a lot of fathers who believe that if I don't contribute financially, I shouldn't be there. And what I mean is, some mothers feel like if you're not paying me, no money, no child. There's no need for you to come around. So some fathers feel defeated. Some fathers feel if I just pay child support or give money, that's all I've got to do, which is the opposite end of it. So they attach being a father by just contributing financially. Contribution financially is critical. It's important.
Absolutely.
Whether you're married, whether you are a single father, single mother, not living with a child, living across the country, but that emotional attachment and bond that we can remember from our parents, both good and bad, lasts a lifetime. And so I think that far outweighs the money. And that's what I think is more important, is how do we want to live our legacy for our children? And that is where we're trying to drive the message. We're not about fathers. We're not about mothers. We're really about children.
That's right.
And we want our children to have a better condition than what we have.
Now, as a member of the board of directors, I've watched this organization grow significantly. What can you say about what you believe to be the future of this organization and its importance in the movement?
I believe the future of the Fathers and Families Coalition of America is going to be based on a few points. Number one, it must grow in inclusion, and I mean inclusion across the country. We have a great diversity: Latino, African American, Native American, Asian, white, rural, urban, huge metropolitans, Wyoming, Alaska, LA, Chicago. But that diversity has to grow. The leadership has to come up. And the leadership coming up from our youth, because I don't believe that you or I or others who've been in the professional fields 20, 30 years can continue to do all of the work. So it is our investment that we start doing a community development, community leadership program with those who want to take on the work for us. Because I believe the problems will always exist, but we can reduce fatherless. There's no excuse to have 30 million children without a father in their home.
Right.
When I was born in the 60s, there were less than 4.
Right.
So how did we get to this point? We've got to go back and figure out what was successful before. So I think that's another thing we have to do too, is make sure that we get into research, take on a very professional framework when we service families. And then the final thing is, I know people say don't lobby, but we need to educate our legislative entities, because they don't know everything. And the reason why they don't know everything is they can't be at all places. There's only one being that I know who's omnipresent. And so there's no way that a legislator knows the issues of their community in fullness. We have to educate them those issues.
Well, on behalf of the board of directors of the Coalition of Fathers and Families, and for every child and every father in this country, I thank you for the tireless work that you have done, and for the wonderful conference that you helped to put on this year. Thank you, James.
Thank you.